Stacked bridging questions. One of the problems you have when talking to founders is getting the conversation going and keeping it on track. So just to take an extreme case, I've been contacted by founders that they were asking for an IP strategy meeting. That should be wonderful. Now, these are clients with past experience with IP, especially with patents. They've been on the giving end and on the receiving end. They should know what they want. But as we start talking, they get blank faces. For some reason, they're unable to see how IP is going to fit into the stories that they want to tell, narratives. So we have a very easy discussion about why IP is important, why IP is good for them. But when we get into the specifics, their company, I hear a question like, I don't understand why patents are good for my company. And what they actually mean is, and I ask them, I don't know how to evaluate what you're saying we should be doing. I don't have any tools to analyze it. Or sometimes they say, don't I have enough patents? Which really means I think it's about numbers. I have 5. 5's enough. So how do we bridge this gap? And maybe we'll talk a teeny bit more about the gap itself. I mean, obviously, we have to find a common language between the founders and the IP people. But there's a problem. If I speak using founder language, how will we talk about IP? And if I speak using IP language, how will they connect to it and understand exactly what they don't understand now? Now, it's not just, let's find a way to talk. This gap and overcoming it is a crucial issue. Why? Because these founders need to be able to tell a story, and IP is, a critical part of the story that they have to be able to tell. And because IP is a strategic tool, especially for startup companies, their company strategy should include integrally something about how they invest in IP and how they use IP. But like I said before, the question is, how do we get to talking about IP strategy rather than about how expensive patents are? And by the way, they're not that expensive. So ideally, I would like to ask, how are you going to win? And they should give me a theory of success. But when I do that, either the answer is very unfocused, vague, or it's all described in such business language that I really can't talk to them about IP without getting back to the problem that I need to use IP language. So I'm putting it all together into a lot of founders don't understand and don't have the language to talk about how IP fits in to their company story. One tool I've successfully used is what I call bridging questions. So these are questions that are worded using founder language, meaning they're close enough to their comfort zone, they're using their language, but they extend in my direction, the IP direction. And any answers they give, I can use it as a basis for explaining an IP move or an IP strategy principle. And what happens is that this gets a discussion going. And in fact, if it doesn't get it going, if the founder can't answer one of these questions, I think it's clear to them, not to me, that they need to do homework, which means that the discussion is failing not because of some language problem, but because they don't know what they need to know about the company. And of course, I have more than one question like this, and I'll talk about that. Right now, let's talk about a set of 3 questions, and the answer to each question is a key part of the IP story that the founder needs to be able to tell investors. And these questions and themselves and the answers are also educational in the sense that when we're done, next time we talk, in a different company perhaps, these founders will know more about IP and will have better language to articulate what they want and understand what I'm suggesting and comment and agree or disagree and so on. So here they are. Question number one. What is distinctive about your offering? And of course, that's implying and is also covered by your IP. Now, why should they be able to answer? I believe any company manager should be able to explain what is special about their product. If they can't, well, we have a problem. And if they have IP, and it doesn't matter if it's a trade secret or patent or trademark or design, they should be able to say, or know at least, if it relates to what's distinctive. In other words, if they filed a patent, they should be able to say, oh, it relates to this feature that only we're doing. Now, what do I do with the answer? Well, distinctive is exactly where we want to start looking for potentially valuable IP and to understand the company vision. You know, the company's doing things differently. Why are they doing things differently? What advantages does it have? What is their compelling vision of the future that requires them to do things differently? And maybe they're not doing things differently for any good reason, so we know that these things perhaps are less important. How does the answer fit into their IP story? Answer is that if they have IP which covers what is distinctive about them, people who want to directly copy them will not be able to, or, will be more difficult. And that means that they will stay special. And that, at least for marketing, is good. What does it teach them about IP strategy? It teaches them that IP is about what is different, and it helps connect IP and marketing, both of which have to do with differentiation, but in different ways. And another thing it might teach them about IP strategy is that the answers to the question what, why, and what for help drive IP. Question number two. What is your competitive advantage? And there's an implication that they should be able to say where it comes from and hopefully whether it's covered by IP. Now, anybody who has a company and has some sort of theory about why the company is going to succeed, usually it has something to do with their competitive advantage. And possibly, if they have IP, they did ask or will ask, how will this expenditure on IP help my bottom line? And bottom line might be help maintain or improve my competitive advantage. What do I do with the answer? It, first of all, helps me discuss with them what advantages that they have and how can be protected using IP. It helps figure out where the technical contributions and non-technical contributions and the energy of the company is found. And it also helps understand what problems they have that need to be solved. All of these, of course, are places where it's wonderful to get IP. How does it fit into their IP stories? Others cannot copy the ideas that we have that help us win, in other words, competitive advantage, because we have IP. And what does it teach them about IP strategy? First of all, the basic strategy of critical feature denial. We deny our competitors from doing whatever a critical feature is. And second, it helps them understand that IP is about what other people wish to do. Okay, if we have a competitive advantage, people want to do it. People need to do it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be solving the problems that everybody else needs to be solved. Question number three. What alternative product can the competitor make? And this implies that they should be able to tell me what is needed in order to win in this field. Now, why should they be able to answer this question? Usually, founders know something about the competition and know something about the problems that need to be solved in order to succeed. Now, it's very important for the founder to get past the question of what do I think I need to do, but instead talk about the problems in the field in general. What do I do with the answer? First of all, it helps analyze the solution space. And remember, we want to use IP in order to control the solution space and also control money flow. So understanding how the competitor can make money in the same markets that we are is important. And of course, if we understand what the problems are and what the competitor is and knows, we can figure out how to prevent satisfactory, meaning that people might buy them, competing products. How does it fit into their story? They can say, we can not only block people from copying us or from being inspired by our ideas, we can actually block others from entering into our market or thriving in our market, which means we might have a monopoly and charge monopoly prices. What does it teach them about IP strategy? First of all, that their competitors can win without actually copying the product. And second, that IP is not about what you're special at. It's about what other people might become special at and preventing them from doing it. And they ask, but how can I protect what I don't know how to do? And the answer is, we don't need a patent on an entire solution. We only need a patent on a critical part of the solution. And if you know what the problems in the field are, you can identify such critical parts. Why did I call these stacked questions? The reason is that these questions build one on top of the other. First, let's look at it from an informational perspective. These questions escalate. They start with what I believe, at least, every founder really needs to know about the company and market, and get progressively more difficult. Question number 3, especially, is often difficult to get a good answer to, because a founder often says, oh, there's only my way can work. Now, we know that's not true, and at some point the founders realize that as well. Second, they get exposed to IP concepts which build upon the concepts from the previous question. And they also get exposed to progressively more advanced theories of how IP can be used. So one of the problems we have with a lot of clients is it's difficult for them to see how you can do more than just protect using IP. But even if you can, or even if all you want to talk about is protection, the nuances of different types of protection, protection against what, protection against who, are often not clear. Talking about it can make it clear. And at every point, depending on how the founder answers the question, the discussion can explore more at that level, or we can go on to the next level. And these discussions are very important because they allow us not only to learn about IP and learn about the company, but also help us find metaphors which we can work around and language which we can use to discuss the connection between IP and what the company needs. And of course, let's not forget the patent attorney. The patent attorney also gets information at gradually increasing levels of sophistication, which helps a patent attorney, genius as they might be, understand what's going on. I talked about narratives that founders need to tell about IP. And in general, founders need to arrange all of their facts and hopes and theories in some sort of shape of a narrative. And this narrative needs to be supported by IP, of course. So here's three important stories where IP is not just a bit player. And they really have to do perhaps with different stages of the company. The first one is we can maintain competitive advantage and protect investments by an investor in the company and even generate returns using IP. Now, this story often includes competitors and the market as key players, but we're explaining how IP protects the investment and generates a meaningful company. In story number two, we say we're going to win. Okay. And here's how IP will help us win. And this story might include a step-by-step plan. First we do this and then we do that. Now we know it's going to change, but the IP can help explain how we can deal with these changes. Story number three. Now there's a period of time between when somebody invests in the company until the company is about to win. And during that time, you make major investments in R&D and marketing and other activities. And one of the stories that the founder needs to be able to tell is we can protect the investment in R&D and in marketing until we get close to winning using IP. Okay? And that, of course, relates to this idea of a balanced IP portfolio for different stages of the company. Okay, so we had this talk and it was wonderful. Talk with the founders, and it was wonderful. Now what happens? Well, we didn't actually talk about which IP strategy is relevant for this company. But now that we've started exposing them to IP strategies and IP concepts, we can move beyond the basic protection and talk about other things like collaboration, transactions, ecosystem orchestration, market manipulation, who knows? Second, it is now much easier to talk about IP vulnerabilities, about suppliers, about consequences, people blocking you. So my next question, hopefully, to the founder will usually be much more generic. What are your series of success, failure, and challenge? And one of the things we want to find out is if they think they're going to win because they're unique, or because they're better, or because they're going to be able to obtain a monopoly. There are other series of success, and each one probably needs a different IP program. Their next question, now that I ask the question, now they can ask IP-related questions. How does, for example, and expect an answer, how does IP fit into the CEO's main worries? Risk, opportunity, time, resources, competitors, partners, the market, money, and so on. In any case, even if we don't ask any questions at all, here's what they definitely understand. The word new is an indicator for patents and other types of IP. The word critical, and reason for it being critical doesn't matter, points to the direction of better protection. Which IP is the best to use depends on your competitor, not on you. That IP is not only about what they do, but also about what other people might want to do. That IP can shape the competitive landscape, and that IP relates not only to their direct contacts. Thank you very much.